Hey, it's me, MLB. It's Wednesday yet again, and today I have a Bokuto Kotaro. I apologise if I've said his name wrong. The Aussie accent strikes again. One shot for you. Yes, I know his name probably sounds a lot better coming from everybody else's lips except mine, but at this point I'm just going to own it. So let's move on. This one has suggestive themes. I don't go into a great detail, but you will get the gist of what's happening. So if you'd prefer not to listen to a raunchy scene being read out loud, then please consider moving on to one of my other fluff one-shots. So let's get to it. This is Bokuto x female listener Thigh High. Hey, hey, hey! The unmistakable voice of your boyfriend, Bokuto Kotaro, filled the room as he stepped into the gym with his arms outstretched and a mighty big grin on his face. Unable to control yourself in his presence, you too grinned from ear to ear and stopped picking up the balls that had been rolling around on the wooden floor and smiled at him. He made eye contact with you and strolled purposefully over, his grin turning into a smirk as he got to you and snaked an arm around your waist to pull you into himself. The one thing that you loved, above all else, was how thick Bokuto was. He was built and powerful, but when he held you in his arms, he also became cuddly with plenty of extra something to grab. You wrapped your arms around his body and barely touched fingers together behind him as he hugged you tightly, then pulled back and looked down at you. "Are you ready to watch the ace in action?" he asked loudly. "Of course," you replied with a grin, pulling back and giving him a loving look as you placed your hands on your hips. "You never disappoint." This compliment was all Bokuto needed to feel invincible, and he mimicked your hands on hips and laughed boisterously. "Let's get this game started then," he announced, turning and walking away from you towards the other side of the net. You watched him go, your eyes slowly sliding down over his well-toned ass and thick thighs. Those thighs were your favourite. While you watched, he strode out more and his gym shorts rode up a little, showing a small amount of skin that was just above where his spandex knee and thigh guards were pulled midway up his upper leg. This was your weakness. His strong thighs could make yours turn to jelly the second your gaze landed on them. You loved those things. Your absolute favourite when he was pulling up his shorts a little so that he could grab the top of the guards and hook his thumbs under them, then wriggle them up his legs a little more and let them go. The slap of the tight material to his bare skin, making your arms ripple with goosebumps when you heard the noise. The icing on the cake after that move was to see a small amount of pudge poking out over the top of the fabric to show just how tight those guards were. "Please do the thing, please do the thing," you begged internally, biting into your bottom lip and furrowing your brows intently as he walked over to Akashi and started talking. The pair spoke for a little bit, and then Bokuto called everyone to gather around him. As they were making their way over to him, he reached for his right leg and pulled his shorts up a little so that he could grab for the top band of his tights. "Ah!" your brain screamed, short-circuiting momentarily as you watched him pull each legging up in turn, complete with the slapping noise and the little pudge view before he let the shorts fall back down in place again. You had to turn away at that point to control yourself, before setting up the scoreboard. The game commenced shortly after that, and you kept your eyes on Bokuto. He was always a dream to watch, and before you knew it, the game had finished, and he was starting to pack up. "That was a good game," one of the other team members commented to his friend. "Bokuto was on his A game the whole time, and we didn't have to buoy him up." You waited until some of the team had left, and then walked over to Bokuto and reached up to give him a congratulatory hug, your arms coming in contact with his sweaty neck. "Good game," you complimented him. "I always love watching you play." "Ha," he hummed happily, eyes dancing with delight. "It's always good to have you here watching me too," he replied, giving you a quick kiss as the last of the team left the room. You grinned and grabbed onto his sweaty form. "So now what?" you asked, smiling up at him as you pushed your front up against his. "I'd like to practice my power serves," he said proudly. "Would you toss some balls to me?" "Of course," you said excitedly, letting go of him to get a ball from the cart nearby. You tossed it to him and watched as he took a short run up and jumped, connecting with the ball and slamming it down on the other side of the net. To encourage him, you clapped wildly, gushing over his strength and form. He grinned and pulled his shorts up a little to scratch his thigh, and your eyes shot to his bare skin, which he definitely saw. Quickly he pushed the shorts down to cover his legs and looked away, a little bashfully. "Don't look," he mumbled. "Why?" you asked, a little crestfallen that your private viewing had been cut short. I don't like how big my thighs are. What? You gasped, beyond mortified. Take that back, they're my favourite part of you. He blushed and his hair drooped a little as he scratched his cheek bashfully. No, I'm being serious, you said emphatically. I love your thighs, and I love how the fabric pulls tight and... You walked over to him and lifted the hem of his shorts, tugging them up a little way so that you could see that part just above the thigh guard that puffed out a little. See? There! He embarrassedly pushed the shorts down again and stepped away, his shoulders hanging a little. Baby, you called, quickly ducking around to his front so you could look up into his face. I really love it. They're so thick and strong. A good ace needs good legs to give him the power to jump and win the match, which is exactly what you do. This little pep talk boosted him, and he hesitantly looked into your eyes, then slowly his confidence came back, and he nodded, then straightened as your words sank in. Yeah, you're right. An ace needs good legs to stand on. That's right, baby. And I bet you beat absolutely everyone else at doing squats and wall sits too, you encouraged. Oh, I'm the best at squats and wall sits. I'll show you, he announced before proudly squatting down a few times to show you his form. Naturally, his shorts rode up each time, and you got another delicious look at those juicy thighs, which by now you were starting to feel a little hot between your own thighs. And wall sits? You asked him. He grinned and grabbed your hand, pulling you with him over to the wall so he could rest his back against it and sink down a little. He got into position, and you stood there mesmerised, eyes glued to the bare thigh that was poking out from under his shorts, just above his leggings. You hummed, unable to stop yourself from straddling that thigh. Bokuto adjusted a little and placed his hands on your waist as you put one hand on the wall next to him and sat down on his upper leg, gripping your own around his girth and feeling it mould itself to your shape as you squeezed your legs together a little. That heat that was gathering between your thighs earlier suddenly became a raging inferno, and you leaned in to kiss your man while moving a little on him, trying not to rock back and forth too much. You didn't want to look that keen. With your hands on the wall to support you, and with no objections from your boyfriend, the slow, almost incremental movements from you became a little more noticeable, and Bokuto helped you shift up closer to his body, where his thighs were even thicker than you'd ever imagined. Feeling all of that leg between yours was making a hell of a lot of unholy noises in your brain, and before you knew it, you were rocking furiously back and forth on him while his hands held your waist and helped you along. Oh, your thighs feel so good, Taro, you whispered seductively in his ear as he traced kisses along his jawline. I told you I liked your thighs. Now do you believe me? Maybe we should continue this at my place tonight, he whispered back. I have something between my thighs that's just as big. Bokuto! Akashi's voice called from the gym door. You got such a fright that you ripped yourself off Bokuto's leg so fast it unbalanced him. That and the fact that he had just held a wall sit for about 10 minutes, and then you both crashed to the ground in a tangle of limbs. Did I interrupt something? Akashi asked innocently, but also with a small smirk. He was wall sitting, you blurted out. And what were you doing, Yin? Akashi asked. Actually, don't answer that, please. Bokuto, the coach wants you in the office to talk about the game next week. Oh, Bokuto said, pulling himself up before helping you up. Akashi nodded and then turned and left without saying a word, and you groaned. Oh, how embarrassing, you whispered, more to yourself than anything else. So, tonight? Bokuto asked hopefully. I'll let you ride my thigh again if you like. I'm in. Those thighs always get me high, you replied, giving him a kiss on the cheek before parting ways. Needless to say, you were looking forward to that night ahead. The end. Raise your hands if it's Bokuto's thighs that got you looking. Yeah, I see all your hands. So good. Put them down now. I'll see you next week for the next Wednesday's one shot. Stay tuned.